In the quiet corridors of the Galactic Archive on Centaur Prime, a young woman named Lily walked alone. Her boots made no sound on the smooth obsidian floor around her. Scholars from dozens of worlds studied ancient texts, debated cosmic theories, or fed data into humming machines. Most never noticed her. She was small, quiet human, and in this place that made her nearly invisible. But today would be different. Lily clutched a small pouch at her side, her fingers brushing the smooth seed inside. It had been passed down through 3 generations of her family, a living piece of a world most believed dead. She had waited years for this moment, hiding her identity, studying alien languages, learning their customs, all so she could survive long enough to speak one truth: Earth is alive. The Great Hall of Records loomed ahead, its arched ceiling shimmering with projected constellations from forgotten systems inside Dr. Voss. The senior xenohistorian of the Galactic Council was about to deliver his annual lecture on extinct species. Lily had heard rumors of his latest conclusion, and her stomach twisted with dread. She slipped into the back row, just as the lights dimmed. A hush fell over the crowd. Dr. Voss stepped onto the central platform, his tall, slender frame casting 6 long shadows thanks to the archive's multi-directional lighting. His 6 eyes glowed faintly violet as he surveyed the audience. Today he began, his voice resonating through hidden speakers. We address a closure. Long overdue, the species known as Homo sapiens, native to the 3rd planet of the Sol system, is officially confirmed extinct. A ripple of murmurs spread through the hall. Some scholars bowed their heads, others exchanged knowing glances. Lily's breath, caught in her throat, evidence from deep space scans, atmospheric decay, biosignature loss, and the absence of any signal for over 300 cycles, all confirm it. Dr. Voss continued, humans were brilliant but fragile. They destroyed their world through war and greed, then vanished into silence. What remains are ruins, myths, and a few scattered artifacts preserved here as cautionary relics. He gestured to a display that lit up, showing grainy images of crumbling cities overgrown with strange vines and rusted metal skeletons of ancient machines. Their story is tragic but final. He said no. Living human exists. No voice remains from Earth. It is a tomb, not a home. Lily stood, every eye turned to her. She felt the weight of their stares. Some curious, some annoyed, but she did not sit down. Earth is alive, she said, her voice clear. Though quiet, the hall fell utterly silent. Dr. Voss tilted his head slowly, his facial membranes fluttering in mild surprise. Identify yourself. My name is Lily. I am human, and I was born on Earth. A gasp rose from the crowd. A few scholars stood instinctively. One Krellian even activated a personal shield. Dr. Voss raised a long 3-fingered hand for calm. That is impossible, he said gently but firmly. The Sol system was quarantined. After the Xenophage conflict, all evacuation ships were accounted for. No births have been recorded off-world, and no signals have returned from Earth in centuries. I was born in a biodome beneath Mount Shasta in Northern California. Lily said steadily. My parents were part of the hidden ones. They refused to leave when the off-world evacuation began. They believed Earth could heal, and it did. Voss studied her, his eyes narrowing slightly. Your genetic markers could be replicated, your memories implanted. You might be a construct, a dream echo, or a bio-replica created by rogue A. I bleed. I dream. I cry when I hear old songs, Lily said. I remember my mother's hands in the soil planting tomatoes. I remember the sound of rain on our dome roof. I remember watching the northern lights dance over snow-covered pines. That is not data, that is life. She reached into her pouch and pulled out the seed pod, placing it on the nearest data pedestal. It was small, dark green with faint silver veins running through it like tiny rivers. This is from the last coast redwood tree on Earth. She said it fell during a storm. My grandmother caught it before it hit the ground. She kept it safe for 50 years, then gave it to my mother, who gave it to me. Dr. Voss approached slowly, his sensory tendrils extending from his temples. He did not touch it. Instead, he activated the archive's bioscanner. A soft blue beam passed over the pod. The machine beeped, then displayed results on a floating screen. Organic origin confirmed, Terran classification, viability intact, dormant. But alive. Murmurs grew louder this time, not of doubt but wonder. A young scholar from Varelia spoke up. Master Voss, our deep observatory recorded anomalous oxygen spikes in Sol 3's atmosphere last cycle. We dismissed it as sensor error. Another added our cultural archive intercepted faint harmonic pulses from the same sector. They matched no known transmission pattern, but had rhythmic structure like music. Dervos remained still, then turned back to Lily. If Earth lives, why has it remained silent? Because you stopped listening, Lily said simply. After the war, your ships scanned for weapons, for signals, for threats. You never listened for songs, for wind through trees, for the hum of a healing world. She closed her eyes and began to sing. It was a lullaby her mother sang every night. Soft, simple words about stars watching over sleeping children as her voice filled the hall. Something extraordinary happened. The ambient lighting in the archive shifted from cool white to warm amber. The air grew thick with the scent of damp soil and pine needles. On a nearby monitor, a dormant terraforming analyzer flickered to life, its screen showing a waveform that perfectly mirrored Lily's melody. Dr. Voss stared at it, his voice barely a whisper. That frequency. It matches residual signals we've logged for decades but labeled as cosmic background noise. Earth sings back. Lily whispered. It always has, you just never learned how to listen. The crowd was no longer skeptical. They were awed. A moth-like scholar from the outer rim wiped moisture from her compound eyes. Another recorded every second on a personal slated. Dervos stepped down from the platform and approached Lily not as a superior, but as a seeker. Tell me, he said quietly. How did your people survive? Lily took a breath and began her story. After the Xenophage War, a conflict humans never fully understood but paid for, dearly, off-world powers declared Earth uninhabitable. Radiation, storms, toxic skies, collapsing ecosystems. The Galactic Council ordered total evacuation. Those who left were taken to refugee stations. Most died within a generation from grief or disease. But not everyone left. A network of scientists, farmers, poets, and engineers chose to stay. They built hidden biodomes powered by geothermal vents and solar mirrors. They recycled every drop of water, purified every breath of air, and taught their children to listen to the land. We didn't fight the planet, Lily explained. We worked with it. Forests grew back in the cities, rivers cleaned themselves, animals returned. We learned to live quietly, to take only what we needed, and you never tried to contact the galaxy. We did at first, Lily said, but every signal we sent was met with silence, or worse, automated quarantine drones that fired on anything that moved. After a while, we stopped. We focused on healing, not on proving we existed. Dr. Voss nodded slowly, his posture less rigid now. You have shown us our error. We assumed silence meant death, but perhaps it meant patience. He turned to the assembly, his voice strong now. Attention all scholars, effective immediately. The Terran file is under review. I propose a new classification, not extinct, but recovering. Wave of agreement rose through the hall. Scholars activated their comms, sending alerts across the network. Lily watched it all with quiet disbelief. She had spent years afraid to speak. Now her words were changing history. Later, in a private chamber, Dr. Voss offered her tea brewed from Xanthar blossoms. She accepted and sat across from him. What will happen now? She asked. We will send a mission. He said, not with soldiers or scientists alone, but with listeners, botanists, musicians, healers. They will approach Earth not as conquerors but as guests. They will ask permission before stepping foot on your soil. Lily smiled faintly. That is all we ever wanted. You must come with them. Dr. Voss said you are the bridge between worlds. I cannot, she replied. My place is on Earth. I left only to speak for it. Now that you've heard me, I must return. How will you get back? She pointed to the window where a small shuttle sat on the landing pad marked with faded Earth symbols. It belonged to her parents, smuggled out decades ago, hidden in an asteroid belt. It still flew. Dervos studied her, then nodded. You carry more courage than most empires. Before she left, Lily walked through the Archives Memorial Garden, a place where extinct species were honored with symbolic flora. She knelt in a quiet corner and planted the redwood seed in the rich alien soil. Grow strong, she whispered. The galaxy is watching now as her shuttle lifted off Xanthar Prime. Lily looked down at the glowing city below, then up at the stars ahead. She thought of her mother's hands in the dirt of their garden, of the sound of wind through new leaves, of children laughing in sunlit dome. Earth was alive, and soon the universe would see it too. But her journey was not over, because as her ship entered warp space, A faint signal pulsed through her console, not from Earth but from the edge of the Sol system. Something was waiting there. Something old. Something watching. Lily adjusted her course slightly. Her heart steady. Whatever it was, Earth would face it not alone this time. The stars held their breath, and part 1 ended with hope humming in the dark. Lily's shuttle drifted through the silent dark near the edge of the Sol system. The stars here were familiar, like old friends watching her return the signal she had picked up hours ago. Pulsed again, soft but steady. Not random, not mechanical. It had rhythm like a heartbeat. She checked her scanners again, nothing visible, no ship, no station, just empty space. And that strange Hume. Earth is ahead, she whispered, but something is waiting between us. Back on Xanthar Prime, the Galactic Council had already begun preparations for the first peaceful contact mission, but Lily knew she could not wait for them. Earth had waited long enough. She adjusted her course slightly, following the signal like a thread through the void. As she drew closer, the hum grew, stronger, and her ship's systems flickered, not from damage but from something else like recognition. The lights dimmed, then brightened. The air inside grew warm and carried the faint scent of rain. Then she saw it, not a ship, not a station, but a ring, a vast circular structure floating in the shadow of Saturn's rings. It was made of stone and metal, woven together like living bone, covered in vines and moss that should not survive in vacuum. Yet there they were, green and breathing. Lily's breath caught. This was not human, not alien as she knew it. This was something else. Her shuttle slowed on its own, the engines quieting as if bowing. The ring opened a path of light leading inward like an invitation. She hesitated, then nodded and flew inside. The ring was warm air filled with the sound of wind and distant bird song, impossible yet real. The walls glowed with soft blue veins pulsing in time with the hum she had heard. At the center floated a sphere of water, clear and still, reflecting the stars above. Lily stepped out of her shuttle in a simple pressure suit. But the moment her boots touched the floor, the suit's alarms went silent. The air was breathable. She took off her helmet. The air smelled like home, like forests after rain, like the garden behind her childhood dome. A voice spoke, not in words but in feeling. It filled her mind gently. "You have returned." Lily looked around but saw no one, only the water sphere, the vines, the light. "Who are you?" she asked. "We are the keepers," the voice replied. "We were here before your kind walked upright. We watched you rise, burn, fall, and rise again. You protected Earth. We did not protect. We waited. Earth protects itself. Your people only needed time and silence." Lily stepped closer to the water sphere. Her reflection shimmered, then changed, showing not her face but Earth from space green blue alive. "Why show me this?" "Because you spoke when others stayed silent." The voice said, "You carried the seed. You sang the song. You reminded the stars that life does not end just because it grows quiet." Tears filled Lily's eyes. She wiped them away. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing." The voice said, "Only to witness and to carry word back. The ring is a gate, not a weapon. It has slept for centuries now. It wakes. Because you returned." As if in answer, the ring began to glow, brighter light spreading through its structure. The vines bloomed with white flowers that released tiny seeds into the air. The seeds floated like stars. Lily reached out and caught one in her palm. It pulsed once, then dissolved into light. "The gate is open," the voice said. "Those who come in peace may pass. Those who come with harm will find only silence." Lily understood. This was Earth's final defense. Not a wall, but a test. She turned, back to her shuttle. "I must return home, go," the voice said. "Tell them the ring remembers. Tell them Earth is ready." Lily flew out of the ring as she passed through the opening. It sealed behind her, leaving no trace, only empty space and the quiet hum fading into the stars. Days later, her shuttle entered Earth's atmosphere. The sky turned from black to blue, then gold as she descended over the Pacific coast. Clouds parted like curtains, revealing green hills, forests, and rivers clean and bright. Below, in a valley hidden by mist and magnetic cloaking, a cluster of domes glowed with soft light. Her home. As she landed, people poured out. Not with weapons, but with open arms. Her mother ran first, tears streaming down her face. They held each other for a long time, saying nothing, "You came back," her mother whispered. "I had to." Lily said. "I spoke for us and they listened." That night, under a sky full of stars, the community gathered around a fire not for warmth but for story. Lily told them everything: the lecture, the seed, the song, the ring. They listened in silence. Then old man Ellis, who had been a child during the last evacuation, spoke. "We always knew Earth was alive," he said. "But we forgot the rest of the universe might remember too." The next morning Lily stood on a hill overlooking the valley. She held a new seed grown from the one she planted on Zenthar Prime. It had sprouted during her journey, its tiny leaves already reaching for the sun. She planted it beside a young redwood already growing strong. Weeks passed and then a signal came, not from Zenthar Prime but from closer in the Sol system. A ship approached, slow and unarmed. Its design, unlike any human or known alien craft. It bore no weapons, no scanners, only a single symbol on its hull, a circle, with a sprouting leaf. The Galactic Council had sent their first envoy. Lily stood at the edge of the valley as the ship landed softly on the grass. No ramp lowered, no figures emerged. Instead, a soft chime filled the air and the ground beneath the ship bloomed with wildflowers. Then a voice spoke in perfect English. Simple and clear: "We come to listen." Lily stepped forward. "Alone. My name is Lily. I speak for Earth." A figure emerged from the ship. Not Dr. Voss, but someone new. A young scholar named Maya. Her skin pale blue, her eyes large and dark. She wore simple robes and carried no device, only a small flute made of bone. "I was chosen because I believe in songs." "Not scans," Maya said. "I have studied your lullaby. It matches the planet's frequency." They walked together through the valley, Maya touching leaves, smelling the air, watching birds with wonder. She did not take samples or record data. She simply witnessed. Back at the domes, the elders met with her. Not as leaders, but as equals. They shared food, stories, and silence. Maya stayed for 10 days, then returned to her ship. When she left, she carried no artifacts, no data chips, only a single redwood leaf pressed between two stones on Zenthar Prime. Her report changed everything. Earth is not recovering. They said it is thriving. Within a year, more ships came, not fleets, but single vessels, each carrying listeners, healers, artists, and gardeners. They camped at the edge of the valley, asked permission before stepping inside, and left gifts of seeds from their own worlds. Lily became the voice, not the ruler, not the leader, just the one who spoke when needed. But peace did not come without challenge. One day, a warship appeared on the edge of the system, not from the Council, but from the Iron Coalition, a faction that believed extinct worlds should be stripped for resources. They had heard rumors of Earth's revival and came to claim it. They did not send messages. They sent drones. The drones entered the ring and vanished. No explosion, no signal lost, just gone. The warship waited, then sent more again. Silence on Earth. Lily felt the ring stir like a sleeping wolf shifting in its den. She knew what it meant. She sent a single message to the Iron Coalition, not through comms, but through the network of listening posts the Council had set up. Earth is not yours to take. The warship hovered for 3 days, then turned and left. No one knew why, but those who understood the ring knew the truth. It had shown them something they could not face, perhaps their own end, perhaps the weight of what they had destroyed. After that, no hostile ship came near. Sol years passed. Lily grew older. Her hair silvered, but her eyes stayed bright. She taught children how to listen to the wind, how to plant seeds, how to sing. The old songs. Maya returned, often bringing news from the stars and seeds from distant worlds. Some grew, others did not, but all were tried with care. One spring morning, Lily stood again on the hill, where she had planted the first seed from Zenthar Prime. The tree was tall now, its branches wide enough to shade a dozen people beneath it. He placed her hand on its bark and felt the pulse of the world beneath her feet, steady, strong, alive. In the distance, a new ship landed, not alien, not human, but something in between, a child of both worlds stepping onto soil for the first time. Lily smiled. The story was not over, it was just beginning. And Earth kept breathing, dreaming, waiting, not in silence anymore, but in song. 10 years had passed since the first alien ship landed in the valley. And Earth had changed, not in the way the old world feared, with towers and machines and noise, but in quiet ways that honored both memory and growth. Vines now climbed the sides of domes, not to hide them but to weave them into the land paths of smooth stone-connected communities. Not for speed but for walking and talking. Children played in fields where cities once stood, their laughter mixing with bird calls and wind through young redwoods. Lily was no longer just a messenger. She had become a teacher, not by title but by presence. She walked the hills every morning, not to patrol but to listen, and sometimes to speak, when the world needed a voice. One morning, as mist curled around the base of the great redwood she had planted long ago, Lily felt a shift in the air. Not danger but change. The kind that comes before rain or birth. She placed her palm on the tree's bark and closed her eyes. Deep below in the roots and stone something stirred. The ring had awakened again, not because of threat, but because something new was coming. That afternoon a signal arrived, not from space, but from the deep ocean, a place humans had long avoided since the war. The Pacific Trench had been silent for decades now. It pulsed with light, soft blue waves rising from the abyss. Lily gathered a small group: Maya, now an elder envoy from Xanthar Prime, Old Man Ellis, and a young girl named Nora, who had been born after the first contact. Nora carried a flute carved from river reed and could mimic the songs of whales. They took a submersible, not armed, not armored, just a clear bubble with gentle lights, and descended into the dark. As they went deeper, the water grew warmer, not from heat but from life. Bioluminescent creatures swirled around them, not fleeing but guiding like stars in liquid night. At the bottom, nestled in a canyon of black rock, stood a structure not built, but grown smooth and spiraling like a shell covered in coral that glowed with inner light. "This is not human," Lily said softly. "Nor alien," Maya added. "This is older." The submersible settled on the seafloor and the hatch opened. The water did not rush in. Instead, it parted like a curtain, revealing dry ground and air that smelled of salt and ancient stone. They stepped out. The spiral structure hummed the same frequency as the ring in space, the same as Lily's lullaby. Nora raised her flute and played a single note. The structure opened. Inside was a chamber, filled with water, not still like the ring, but moving in slow circles. At its center floated a sphere of light, shifting colors, like the northern lights. A voice came, not in words but in waves of feeling. "You have returned to the cradle." Lily stepped forward. "Who are you?" "We are the first breath," the voice replied. "The ones who shaped the oceans, taught the first cells to divide, watched life crawl onto land and reach for stars. You are the planet. We are part of it. As you are." Nora touched the water, and gasped. Images flooded her mind. Forests rising, deserts blooming, ice melting, not as destruction but as cycles. "Why show us this now?" "Because the song has grown, Lily." The voice said, "You began it alone now, others join you. The ring in the sky, the roots, in the sea, the winds in the trees all sing together. But a new note is coming, one you have not heard." "What note?" The voice showed them a vision, not of war or ruin, but of merging a child with human eyes and moth-like wings, laughing under twin suns. A garden grown from earth seeds and Xanthar blossoms side by side, a language made of song and light. "The future is not human or alien," the voice said. "It is both and neither. It is life." Choosing to continue, tears fell from Lily's eyes, not from sadness, but from awe. "What must we do? Listen," the voice said, "and teach others to listen." They returned to the surface as the sun set, painting the sky in gold and violet. That night, the whole valley gathered. Not just humans, but envoys from 20 worlds. They sat in a circle, no leaders, no stages, just people. Lily spoke simply. "Earth is not ours to own, it never was. It belongs to the song." Maya stood and played a melody on her bone flute. Nora joined with her river reed flute, and others added their own sounds. Drums, hums, chimes, until the air itself vibrated with harmony. High above the ring in space glowed brighter. Responding to the music, deep below, the ocean spiral pulsed in time, and in the soil beneath their feet, roots intertwined, carrying the song through. The planet. Weeks later, a new ship arrived, not from the Council but from the Iron Coalition, the same faction that had once threatened Earth. This time it carried no weapons, only a single passenger, an old commander named Kale. His face lined with regret, he walked alone to the edge of the valley and knelt. "I came to ask for forgiveness," he said. "We thought strength was in taking, We were wrong. Lily met him not with anger but with quiet. What do you seek? A place to listen. He said, my people have destroyed many worlds. We thought it made us powerful. Now we see it made us empty. You may stay. She said, if you learn to Harkale remained for a year. He dug soil, planted seeds, sat for hours without speaking. Until one morning he cried at the sound of rain. Returned to his people not with orders but with a song. Slowly the coalition changed not by force but by choice. They began to heal their own broken worlds using lessons from Earth, not technology, but patience. Back on Earth the blending deepened. Human children learned alien languages. Alien children learned to plant tomatoes and tell stories under the stars. Festivals celebrated solstices and alien equinoxes alike. Lily watched it all with quiet joy. But she knew her time as the bridge was ending. One spring day, she called Nora to the great redwood. You will carry the song now, Lily said. Nora trembled but nodded. I hear it in the wind and the water, in the silence between stars. Good, Lily said. The voice does not need one speaker. It needs many. That night, Lily climbed the hill one last time. She sat beneath the redwood and closed her eyes. The wind carried voices from the valley, from the ocean, from the ring in space, all singing the same notes. He did not wake at dawn. They found her there, peaceful hand, resting on the roots of the tree she had planted so long ago. They did not bury her. They planted her beneath the redwood with seeds from 100 worlds around her. And as the soil settled, a new shoot pushed through the earth. Not redwood, not alien, but something new, leaves shaped like hands reaching for the sun. Nora stood before the gathered crowd. Human and alien alike. Earth is alive, she said. And so are we. The song continued, in the cities that slept beneath vines, in the domes that breathed, with the wind in the ring that watched the stars, and in the hearts of those who chose to listen. Life did not roar, it whispered, and those who leaned close enough could hear it say, welcome home. The end. 50 years after Lily's passing, Earth was no longer a secret nor a myth. It was a beacon, not of power but of balance. The valley where she once walked had grown into a living city, not built upward, but outward, woven into hills and forests, with paths instead of roads and gardens instead of walls. Nora, now gray-haired but bright-eyed, led not as a ruler but as a listener. She spent her mornings walking barefoot through dew-soaked grass, her afternoons teaching children how to hear the difference between a frightened bird call and a joyful one, her evenings sharing stories under open skies with beings from worlds once thought unreachable. The great redwood stood at the heart of the city, its branches wide enough to shelter hundreds beneath. Its shade at its base, a new tree grew from the shoot that had risen the day Lily was planted. Its leaves shimmered silver in moonlight and hummed softly when the wind passed through. One morning, as Nora sat beneath the twin trees, a child named Eli ran up breathless, holding a smooth stone. It glowed faintly blue. I found it by the river, he said. It sings. Nora took the stone and closed her eyes. The hum matched the ring's frequency, but softer, more personal. This is a seed stone, she said, not for planting in soil, but in mind. She gathered the elders that afternoon, not just humans, but moth-like Varelians, Krellian engineers, and even descendants of the old Iron Coalition, now known as the Listeners. They met not in a hall, but in a circle around the redwoods. The stone had awakened something deep in the asteroid belt beyond Mars, a signal pulsed not from the ring, but from a place long thought empty, a hollowed asteroid once used as a war cache, now silent for centuries. The signal was a questionnaire. We welcome. Nora knew this was not a test of strength, but of memory. She called for a ship, not armed, not fast, just steady and kind, piloted by Eli, now 16 and trained in both human songs and alien star maps. They flew together through the silent lanes of the Sol system, passing the ring which glowed gently as they went by. No alarm, no barrier, just a soft chime like a greeting. When they reached the asteroid, it hung dark and still, but as their ship drew near, cracks of light appeared along its surface, not from damage but from growth vines of silver moss spilled from the seams, and a door formed not of metal but of woven root and crystal. Ellie hesitated. Go, Nora said. This is why we listen. Inside, the asteroid was warm and dry air, smelling of old paper and rain. The walls pulsed with soft light, and shelves lined with objects, not weapons, not machines, but books, seeds, music boxes, and glass orbs filled with swirling mist. At the center sat a figure wrapped in cloth, worn thin by time, its face hidden but its hands trembling. Who are you? Eli asked gently. The figure lifted its head slowly, revealing eyes that held centuries of sorrow. We are the last of the archive keepers. The voice was human but cracked with age. We fled Earth during the final evacuation, not to escape but to preserve. We took what we could: book songs, soil samples, baby shoes, wedding rings, lullabies recorded on rusting tapes. You hid all this time. We waited for a sign that Earth still cared. Nora stepped forward and placed the seed stone on a nearby shelf. It glowed brighter, joining the light of the others. Earth never stopped caring, she said. We just forgot you were out here. Tears fell from the keeper's eyes. We tried to send word once, but the drones shot. Our messengers, we thought we were alone. You are not alone, Nora said. Take what you can carry and come home. They returned to Earth, not with fanfare, but with quiet joy. The keepers brought crates of old Earth treasures, not for museums, but for sharing. Children held yellowed pages of poetry and read them aloud. Elders listened to crackling recordings of jazz and laughed through tears. The city made room not by building, but by opening hearts. But peace is never without shadow, far beyond the Sol system. In the dead zones between galaxies, a new presence stirred, not warlike, not curious, but hungry. It fed on silence, on forgotten places. It had drained worlds dry, not of resources, but of memory, leaving them empty shells with no stories, no songs, no names. It sensed the song from Earth, and it came. First, the outer listening posts went quiet. Not destroyed, just silent, like voices cut mid-sentence. Then the ring flickered, its light dimming for the first time since it awoke. Nora felt it in her bones. Something is coming that does not understand song. She called a gathering not of warriors but of singers. From every corner of Earth and beyond, they came: human children with flutes, Virelian elders with chime robes, Krellian poets who spoke in rhythm, iron coalition, descendants who now wove peace songs into their armor. They stood together beneath the redwoods and began to sing. Not one song, but many layered like roots in soil. A human lullaby, an alien star. Chant a Krellian river poem, a child's made-up tune. About butterflies, the song rose into the sky. The ring flared bright again, its vines blooming with white flowers that released glowing seeds into space. The presence slowed. It had never heard such a thing. Not one voice demanding attention, but many voices offering connection. It reached the edge of the Sol system and stopped. Not because it was blocked, but because it was confused. What is this? Nora sent no weapon, no threat. Only a single message carried on the song. You are not alone. You never were. The presence hovered for days, then began to change its dark form, softening its edges, glowing faintly like a star learning to shine. It did not enter the system, but it did not leave either. It simply listened. And in listening, it remembered something it had lost long ago. Its own song on Earth. Life went on, Ellie. Now a young man stood with Nora on the hill, watching the ring glow steady once more. Do you think it will come closer? Maybe, Nora said. Or maybe it will carry our song to others who have forgotten. There's that night the city held a quiet festival. No grand speeches, just shared food, soft music, and stories told under stars that felt closer than ever, in a small dome on the edge of the forest. A child born of human and Virelian parents drew a picture of Earth with wings and roots and placed it beneath the redwood. The next morning the drawing was gone, but in its place grew a flower with petals shaped like stars. Nora smiled. The song grows. Years passed. The ring remained a silent guardian. The ocean spiral pulsed with calm strength, and the asteroid keepers became teachers, sharing old Earth ways with new generations. Ellie took Nora's place as the primary listener, not because he was chosen, but because he listened beastone evening as the twin redwoods swayed in the breeze. Nora sat beneath them, her hands resting on the silver leaves. She closed her eyes and heard it, the song of Earth, the ring, the ocean, the stars, and now something new, faint but clear, a voice from the dark between galaxies humming a tune it had just learned. She did not fear it, she welcomed it, because the song was never meant to be sung alone. And as the wind carried her last breath into the leaves, the trees sang louder. Not in grief, but in gratitude. Life continued, not in shouts, but in whispers, in seeds, in songs, in hands reaching across differences to plant something new. And somewhere far away, a once empty world began to dream again. The end. 100 years after Lily first spoke in the Galactic Archive, Earth was no longer just a planet. It was a promise whispered across the stars, not of conquest or power, but of return of healing of song. The city beneath the twin redwoods had grown, not in size but in depth, its paths now lined with stones from 1,000 worlds, each one placed by a visitor, who came to listen and left a piece of their home behind. Children played among them, not knowing which stone came from where, only that. All were welcome. Ellie, now old but steady, led the way. He walked slowly these days, his steps measured not by time but by breath. He still rose before dawn to stand beneath the silver leaves and listen for the day's first note. One morning, the note was different. Not from the ring, not from the ocean, but from deep within the earth itself. A low hum that vibrated through roots and rock and bonili called for Maya's granddaughter Sari, a young woman with human eyes and Varelian grace who could hear the silence between heartbeats. Come, he said. The world is dreaming louder. They gathered in the root chamber beneath the redwoods, a space not built but grown, where the oldest roots twisted into arches and glowed with soft light. Elders from many species sat in a circle, their hands resting on the soil. The hum grew stronger. Then the ground opened, not with violence but with care. A spiral staircase of living wood rose from the earth, leading down into warm golden light. This is new, Sari whispered. Eli said this is old. It was waiting. They descended. The air grew richer with every step, smelling of rain, wet stone, and something sweet like blooming night flowers at the bottom. They found a cavern vast and quiet, its walls covered in glowing moss that pulsed like slow breaths. In the center stood a pool, not of water but of liquid light, and floating within it was a seed, not a plant seed, but something else, smooth and warm, humming with the same frequency as the ring, the ocean spiral and lilies. Lullaby. Sari reached out, but Eli stopped her. It is not for taking, he said, it is for answering. The seed rose from the pool and hovered before them. Then it split open, not into leaves but into light that filled the cavern with images. They saw Earth, as it was long before humans, forests of giant ferns, oceans full of strange life. Then they saw the rise of cities, the fall, the silence, the slow return. Then they saw beyond worlds far away, where life had gone quiet, not from war, but from loneliness. Beings who had forgotten how to sing, who walked through their days like ghosts. The seed showed them a path not through space but through song, a way to reach those lost worlds, not with ships but with shared sound. Ellie understood. This is the next, Steve. Turned to Sari. You must carry it. May you hear the silence, Sari, you know how to fill it. Not with noise but with care. That night the city gathered again, not in fear but in readiness. They knew the song could not stay in one place. It had to travel, Sari, prepared not with weapons or armor but with a small flute carved from the silver branch of the second redwood, and a pouch of earth from Lily's resting place. Ellie gave her one last gift, a recording of Lily's original lullaby preserved on a crystal that glowed when touched by living hands. Go, he said, not to fix but to remind. Her ship was small, shaped like a leaf, with sails that caught solar winds instead of engines. It carried no crew, only Sari and the seed, now nestled in a cradle of woven roots. As she left, the ring glowed brighter than ever, its vines blooming with star-like flowers that drifted into space like messengers. Her first stop was a world called Vela, once rich with music, now silent, its cities empty, its skies gray, the people moved like shadows, eyes downcast, voices gone. Sari did not land in their center. She landed on a hill outside the city and played her flute. Just one note. At first no one came, but the wind carried it. On the third day, a child appeared at the edge of the hill. Sari played again. The child sat and listened. On the fifth day the child brought a friend. On the seventh day an old woman came, tears in her eyes. She hummed a tune she had not remembered in decades. Slowly the song returned to Vela, not all at once, but like rain after drought, drop by drop. Sari stayed for a moon, then left the seed behind, planted in the city square where it grew, not into a tree but into a fountain of light that pulsed with the rhythm of shared breath. Her next stop was a desert world where water was memory and hope was dust. There she sang with the wind through canyon walls until the people remembered how to call the rain. On a frozen moon she played with the ice until it cracked, not with force but with song, releasing springs. Long trapped beneath, each world changed her and she changed them, not by giving answers but by asking one question. What did you love before you forgot? And slowly they remembered. Back on Earth, Eli felt each awakening like a heartbeat in the soil. Knew Sari was doing what Lily began, not speaking for Earth but helping others speak for themselves, but not all welcomed the song in the Outer Rim. A faction called the Hollow Ones rose. They believed silence was strength, that emotion was weakness. They had erased their own songs long ago and saw Sari's work as infection. They sent a ship not to talk but to silence. It found Sari on a world called Kethra, where she had just helped a community rebuild their lullabies after generations of quiet. The hollow ship fired no weapons. It released a field of anti-sound, a wave that canceled all vibration, all music, all voices. Ares' flute fell silent. The people of Kethra froze their faces blank, but Sari did not fight. She sat on the ground, closed her eyes and placed her hands on the soil, and waited. The hollow ship hovered. Then from deep below the planet answered, not with noise but with pulse, a slow, steady beat like a heart. The soil vibrated, the rocks hummed, the trees swayed, the anti-sound field flickered. Because life cannot be silenced, only paused. The hollow pilot felt something unfamiliar in his chest, a memory of his mother's voice long buried. He shut off the field and wept. He landed his ship not as an enemy, but as a seeker Sari offered him a cup of tea brewed from Kethran leaves. He drank and for the first time in years spoke his own name. Word of this spread. The Hollow Ones did not vanish, but some began to question their silences. Ari continued her journey. Years passed on Earth. The twin redwoods grew taller, their branches touching the clouds. Children born of many worlds played beneath them, speaking a language made of song and gestureal. I grew weaker, but his smile never faded. One evening as the sun set in gold and violet, he sat beneath the trees and felt a familiar hum. Sari was coming home. Her ship landed softly on the hill, not with fanfare but with quiet joy. She stepped out, older, wiser, her eyes holding the songs of 100 worlds. She knelt before Eli. I brought them back, she said. She opened her pouch and poured out not soil but light tiny sparks that rose into the air and joined the glow of the ring. The ocean, the roots. The song was no longer Earth's alone, it belonged to all who chose to singe. I placed a hand on her head, then closed his eyes. His breath slowed, then stopped. But the song did not. It rose into the night, carried by wind, by starlight, by the hearts of those who remembered. Sari became the new listener. Not because she was chosen, but because she returned, and the work continued, not with grand battles or loud declarations, but with small acts of courage. A child sharing a song, a stranger offering tea, a seed planted in silent ground. Far away on a world once hollow, a man taught his daughter to human a desert moon. Women sang to the wells in the dead zones between stars. Something new stirred not hunger but hope. And on Earth beneath the twin redwoods, a new shoot pushed through the soil, its leaves shaped like open hands, ready to hold the next song. The end.